There are stories that don't need to be written down to be remembered. They live in the pauses of a conversation, in the way your name sits quietly in someone else's silence. Some connections in life defy explanation. They don't arrive with grand announcements or convenient timing. Instead, they settle into your life quietly, like they were always meant to be there. When two souls are meant to connect, their meeting feels less like a beginning and more like a remembering. There's no checklist that makes it make sense, no shared background that can explain the depth, no timeline that justifies how quickly you feel known. It's not logical, it's not reasonable, but it's real. This is the kind of connection that ignores all the usual rules we try to live by. You may come from different worlds, you may have nothing in common on paper. You might meet during a time when neither of you is looking, or at a moment when everything in your life feels chaotic. Still, something pulls you in. It's not attraction in the surface sense. It's not curiosity alone. It's something older, something quieter, something deeper. You find yourself understanding each other without speaking. There's a natural rhythm, like your energies already know how to move together. It's not about agreeing on everything or never arguing. True soul connections aren't perfect, and they're not without friction. But even in disagreement, there's a kind of sacred ground you don't dare destroy. You don't weaponize your love. You don't threaten to walk away, because some part of you knows this connection is different. You could try to walk away. Life might even demand it of you for a time. Circumstances shift. Life gets in the way. People grow at different speeds. But when the connection is rooted in something deeper than logic, separation doesn't erase it. You can be silent for weeks, months, even years, and when you cross paths again, the air changes. You don't have to rebuild from the ground up. You just pick up where you left off. Not because you didn't grow, but because the foundation never cracked. This isn't infatuation. Infatuation burns quickly, then dies. This is a slow fire, the kind that never really goes out. Sometimes it dims, sure. Sometimes life covers it with dust. But all it takes is a spark and eye contact, a shared laugh, a moment of stillness, and it glows again, warm as ever. Because logic may forget, but the soul doesn't. And even when your mind tries to reason it away, even when your friends say, that doesn't make sense, your body knows. Your spirit knows. Something in you softens in their presence, not because they complete you, but because they recognize you. And recognition like that doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't demand certainty. It simply is. So when two souls are meant to be, logic has nothing to do with it. The connection speaks in a different language. One you feel before you understand. One you trust before you name. When two souls are deeply connected, time and distance lose their usual power. Most relationships depend on consistent interaction, daily affirmations, and physical presence to survive. But soul ties operate differently. They aren't built on routine, they're built on resonance. And resonance doesn't weaken just because the calendar flips or miles expand between hearts. It waits, it listens, it holds on. You could be on opposite sides of the world. Life might take you down separate roads, filled with other people, other choices, other chapters. But even in the quiet, even in the long stretches of silence, that connection doesn't disappear. It lingers like a melody you can't forget, faint but persistent. You find reminders in the smallest things. A song, a scent, a phrase, a dream. Something inside you whispers their name in moments when you least expect it, and you wonder how something so invisible can still feel so present. This isn't about obsession. It's not about clinging to the past. It's about something more organic, a thread between two people that never fully unravels, even when the world demands it should. You move on with your life. You learn, you grow, you change. But part of you remains quietly tuned to that frequency, not out of longing, but out of recognition. You know they're still out there, becoming who they're meant to be, just as you are. And somehow, even from a distance, you're still walking in parallel. There may be years between conversations. There may be time zones, relationships, or seasons that try to dilute what once was. But when that thread is real, you don't have to speak every day to remain connected. There's an unspoken trust in the space between, a knowing that you haven't been forgotten, that no matter how much time passes, the bond remains untouched by erosion. It waits quietly, not demanding presence, but never letting go entirely. And then sometimes the universe circles back. You find each other again, almost accidentally, at a coffee shop, in an unexpected message, or in the middle of a moment when you weren't even looking. There's no awkwardness, no need for small talk, just a return to something that never really left. You recognize each other not as the people you once were, but as who you've become, and yet the core remains unchanged. The truth is, time and distance can test a connection, but they can't destroy a soul tie that was never built on convenience in the first place. Because what's real doesn't dissolve, it adapts, it deepens, it waits in the quiet moments, steady and undemanding, until the world is ready to make room for it again. So even when everything else fades, names, faces, years, some connections stay unshaken, unmoved, still humming beneath the noise of life, waiting for the moment when paths align once more. Adversity has a way of revealing what's real. When everything is easy, when life flows without resistance, it's simple to hold hands and smile through the calm. But it's in the tension and the hard days, the misunderstandings, the moments when things fall apart that a soul connection proves its strength. Because when two souls are truly meant for each other, adversity doesn't break them. It sharpens them. It burns away the surface and leaves only what's true. Not every moment is beautiful. There will be storms, some quiet and slow, others loud and sudden. There will be arguments, disappointments, and doubts that creep in at 2 a.m. There will be times when walking away seems easier than staying. But even in those moments, there's something underneath the pain that holds steady. It's not pride. It's not fear. It's a knowing. A deep-rooted sense that this bond wasn't meant to be abandoned just because the road got hard. Adversity invites growth. It forces the soul to stretch, to unlearn, to let go of ego. And in relationships where the connection is genuine, both people rise to that challenge. Not perfectly, not without failure, but with intention. They show up when it's messy. They choose love even when it's inconvenient. They learn to say, "I was wrong," or "I'm still learning," without shame. And through that vulnerability, the bond deepens not because pain is romantic, but because healing together creates a foundation no surface-level connection can imitate. There's a quiet intimacy in being seen during your worst moments and still being held. In the middle of the chaos, when your flaws are visible and your fears spill out, and the other person doesn't flinch, that's where trust is born. That's where love stops being a feeling and becomes a decision to stay, to fight, to believe that what you have is worth enduring for. And sometimes adversity doesn't come from within. Life throws things at you: loss, change, uncertainty. The world becomes heavy, and you don't have the words to explain why you're distant or angry or numb. But when the connection is real, the other soul doesn't demand a version of you you can't offer in that moment. They stay. They sit in silence if they have to. They don't try to fix everything, they just remind you you're not alone. Every hardship leaves a mark, but when two souls are truly connected, those marks become reminders, not wounds. Reminders of what they survived, reminders of how they held on when everything said they should let go. Over time, those shared trials become the stories they tell, the quiet victories no one else understands. They become evidence of resilience, of a love that didn't fold under pressure, but transformed in it. Because the truth is, soul-deep love isn't proven when everything is going right. It's revealed in the breaking points, in the choices made when everything feels fragile. And when two souls are meant to be, adversity doesn't tear them apart, it welds them together. In a soul connection, both people are on their own journey. They're not here to complete each other, but to witness, support, and challenge one another's growth. And that's the paradox of deep love. It doesn't ask you to shrink or change to keep someone. It asks you to become more of yourself while making space for the other to do the same. Because when two souls are meant to be, they don't grow in perfect harmony, they grow in parallel, and love evolves with them. There will be seasons where one of you is rising while the other is unraveling. One of you might find clarity, purpose, momentum, while the other is still trying to remember how to breathe. And it would be easier, maybe even safer, to wait until you're both ready at the same time. But soul-deep love doesn't wait for the perfect moment. It shows up for the imperfect ones. It understands that personal evolution isn't always synchronized, but it's still sacred. True love doesn't fear change, it invites it. It understands that we are all at every stage unfinished. And instead of resisting growth in the name of comfort, it asks, who are you becoming? How can I meet you there? This isn't about losing yourself for someone else or demanding they move at your pace. It's about honoring your own journey while staying rooted in the connection that holds you both. You keep choosing each other again and again, not because it's effortless, but because it's real. The love that lasts isn't static. It transforms. It deepens. It asks new questions. It makes room for new versions of you. And sometimes that means having hard conversations. Sometimes it means grieving the parts of your connection that no longer fit while building space for what does. It's painful at times, yes. Growth often is. But when you do it together, even if you're moving at different speeds, there's an invisible thread that strengthens with each change. A shared trust that says, I see who you were, I love who you are, and I welcome who you're becoming. This kind of love doesn't resist your evolution, it encourages it. It doesn't panic when you outgrow your old ways of thinking or when you start questioning everything you used to believe. Instead, it offers stability in the uncertainty. It says, grow, stretch, change. I'm not here to hold you back, I'm here to walk beside you. And the beauty of it all is that as you grow individually, the relationship transforms too. It becomes more resilient, more honest, more alive. The conversations shift, the silences become deeper, the bond becomes less about meeting each other and more about choosing each other freely, consciously, again and again. Because when two souls are meant to be, they don't need to stay the same to stay together. They're not afraid of growth. They trust that love isn't just something you feel, it's something you evolve into together. There's a kind of knowing that doesn't need to be explained. It doesn't follow logic, and it isn't based on evidence. It shows up quietly, unexpectedly, and without reason. That's intuition, and when two souls are truly connected, intuition becomes the compass that guides them. You feel it before you can name it. A sense of familiarity with someone you've just met. A deep calm in their presence, even if everything around you is loud. It's not something you calculate. It's something you recognize. From the very beginning, something inside you whispers, this is different. You might try to dismiss it, question it, or rationalize it away, but the feeling doesn't leave. It doesn't demand your attention, yet it never fades completely. Even when time passes, even when circumstances change, the connection remains just under the surface, felt more than understood. It shows up in the quiet moments, the sudden memories, the way you still think of them without trying to. It's intuition reminding you of what your soul already knows. You don't need constant communication to stay connected. You don't need constant proof that they care. There's an unspoken trust, an inner sense that this bond exists outside of time, outside of physical presence. Intuition speaks through silence. It tells you when to reach out, when to give space, when to wait, and when to let go, not out of fear, but out of faith in the rhythm of something bigger. Sometimes intuition is inconvenient. It tells you to hold on when everyone else says to walk away. It tells you they're still a part of your story, even when life has taken you in completely different directions. It doesn't always come with answers, but it brings peace in the not knowing. And that's the strange power of soul connections. You don't always know how or why, but you trust that what you feel isn't accidental. There are moments when you feel their energy, even if they're miles away. You sense when they're going through something, when they're not okay, even if they haven't said a word. You cross paths again without planning, run into each other when you least expect it. And every time it feels less like coincidence and more like alignment. That's intuition quietly weaving the unseen threads between your lives. And this inner knowing doesn't rush you. It gives you patience. It gives you space to become who you're meant to be, knowing that if the connection is real, it won't disappear just because life takes a few detours. You don't have to force it, and you don't have to chase it. You simply trust that what's meant will find its way because your soul already recognizes what your mind is still learning to accept. Intuition doesn't shout, it hums. And in the world of soul connections, it's the sound that keeps playing long after the noise of everything else has faded. Some connections feel written into your life before you even understand them. They arrive with a strange sense of timing, too early, too late, or right in the middle of something that should have made love impossible. And yet, there they are. A person who doesn't just fit into your world, but shifts it. That's destiny. It brings two souls into each other's orbit, often when it's least expected and most needed. But destiny alone isn't what keeps them together. That part, that's choice. Being meant to be isn't about everything falling into place effortlessly. It's not a story of perfect alignment without effort or of two people never needing to fight for what they have. Soul connections are real, yes, but they are also raw. They demand something of you. Not just belief in what's meant, but commitment to what's possible. You might feel the pull, the unexplainable gravity, but what you do with that pull, that's up to you. Love born from soul connection still has to live in the real world, in schedules, in differences, in fears, in healing. And in that space, you will always have a choice to stay, to grow, to keep showing up for each other when life tests the bond. Destiny might bring you face to face, but choice is what keeps your hands held when everything else tries to pull them apart. It's easy to believe that if someone is truly meant for you, things should just work. But the truth is, the more powerful the connection, the more it asks of you. It asks for your honesty, your patience, your forgiveness. It asks you to put your ego down and your pride aside. It asks you to trust not just in fate, but in the everyday decision to build something meaningful with someone even when it's difficult. And yes, there are moments when walking away would be easier. When misunderstandings pile up, when timing feels wrong, when the pain outweighs the clarity. In those moments, it's tempting to tell yourself that maybe it just wasn't meant to be. But sometimes what's meant for you isn't easy. Sometimes what's meant for you comes with lessons, with growth, with the kind of work that only two people willing to choose each other can do. That's the beauty of where destiny and choice meet. One opens the door, the other walks through it. One draws the line between two hearts, the other keeps connecting them day after day. Soulmates aren't sustained by magic, they're sustained by effort, by intention, by the shared belief that the bond is worth protecting. You don't just end up with someone because it was written in the stars. You end up with them because no matter how many storms come, you both keep choosing to stay in the boat. Destiny gives you the match. Choice is what lights the flame and keeps it burning. When two souls are meant to be, the world may shift around them, but the connection remains quietly, powerfully, enduringly. It isn't defined by perfection, constant presence, or external validation. It's felt in the silent knowing, in the strength forged through adversity, in the way time and distance fail to dull the bond. It honors growth, not by demanding sameness, but by evolving with it. It leans into intuition over logic and chooses love not once, but over and over again. Because in the end, it's not just destiny that carries soulmates through, it's the daily decision to show up, to hold space, and to believe in a love that defies explanation yet never asks for one.